Hello everybody and welcome to another ranking video. Now today we're going to be ranking the 8th Doctor's main range stories from Big Finish. Specifically all the stuff that he did with Charlie and Kariz. Now, I gotta say, this stuff means a lot to me. The 8th Doctor stuff with the main range on Big Finish means a lot to me. The 8th Doctor stuff in general means a lot to me. Because it helped me, I don't know, it helped me explore Doctor Who's expanded media a lot more. And I thank Big Finish for creating these audios. As soon as I found out about them, I'm like, I have to get these. And I'm so happy to say I have all of these. I might do another video just showing my Big Finish collection. I think that could be another video. But this is also very important for me because when Series 11 was coming on, I wasn't a big fan, obviously. I'm not a huge fan of the Chibnall era. I can safely say, I don't like the Chibnall era at all. So when people were talking about what was going on in the Chibnall era, I wasn't watching a lot of it. I was listening to the 8th Doctor. So for me, it was kind of a weird way where it was like, to people, Jodie Whittaker was the new Doctor. But for me, Paul McGann was the new Doctor. That makes sense because I was just experiencing his stories for the first time. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, quite frankly, be very critical about one of my favorite areas of Doctor Who with one of my favorite Doctors now, Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor. After these, he's become like my second favorite Doctor. He's right next to Tennant for me. And I think it's time for me to rank them. Time for me to be very critical about this era of Doctor Who that I love. So we're going to start off with Storm Warning, the very first one. To me, it is just okay. It does set up a lot of stuff, which is good because it sets up the whole Web of Time arc that they go with. Introduces Charlie, who is one of my favorite companions ever. We got the great theme song for the 8th Doctor, and you instantly just fall in love with the 8th Doctor. He's a great Doctor from the off. But the story itself is just kind of okay, you know? The R101, the idea of the R101 ship, the Doctor shows up, is a good idea, but then when they do with, like, what do they call the Triskele, I think is what their name, that's not interesting at all to me. So it's just an okay one. Sword of Orion is meh. Now, before my re-listen, I probably would have put it in bad, but after my re-listen, I do think it's meh. I listened to it around... Oh my god, when was the last time I re-listened to it? I did a re-listen of all these, so they're sort of fresh in my mind. I believe my re-listen was around... I want to say March-ish? When I re-listened to this one. And... yeah, it's just okay, really. Well, not even okay, it's just kind of meh. Because before I didn't like it, but now I think it's just kind of meh. The story with the Cybermen is... well, first off, it's really cool to hear Paul McGann fight the Cybermen. Let me say that right off the bat. But the whole thing with the androids and the Cybermen just didn't do it for me. And the story does drag in places. Yeah. So it's just kind of meh for me. Stones of Venice, I can easily put it good. This was the first one where I was like really like, oh wow, this was really good. This one to me is the strongest out of the first season. I know some people say Storm Warning is, but to me it is Stones of Venice is the strongest out of the first season. Seeing the Doctor and Charlie go to Venice when it's about to flood completely. And the whole thing with like the Count and his wife who died and all that, and they have the cult that worships her. That's all fun. I love that. The part where Charlie gets kind of possessed by her is also really cool. I just had a great time with this one, man. Really fun. Really enjoyable. If you just want a nice, fun, and intriguing Doctor Who story, Stones of Venice is it. The cliffhanger to part 3 is great, where the bell is going. And the Doctor says something along the lines of, the bell tolls for the death of Venice, or something like that. That is really cool. And the ending is great. I love the ending, man. And then we have Minuet in Hell, which I'm going to put in back. Not a huge fan of Minuet in Hell. The season 1 finale. Yes, the 8th Doctor meets the Brigadier for like a good 10 seconds. Because for majority of it, the Eighth Doctor's in an insane asylum, not knowing who he is. We have the stuff with Vestine Crane, which I do sort of like, specifically because Nick Briggs is playing him, and they're doing the thing where it's like Nick Briggs played the Doctor in the audio visuals, and he's playing Vestine Crane, who is a guy who thinks he's the Doctor in this one. So that's kind of like a wink and nod type thing. Minuet in Hell was also one of the stories from audio visuals that they adapted into Big Finish, because they used to do that a lot. Like a bunch of their old audio visual stories, they just adapted them and put them in as Big Finish stories. Sword of Orion was the other one. Sword of Orion was another one, and they adapted it. But Minuet in Hell, I just don't like this one, man. You know, the weird devil demon plot, it's just freaking weird, man. You got like the pretty much their Charlie ends up in like, I guess, like a prostitute ring. Essentially, it's just freaking weird, man. And not in the good way. Invaders from Mars, the beginning of season 2, goes in God. I adore this story so much, and I will not stand for the slander it gets. This is written by Mark Gatiss, so if you don't like Mark Gatiss, you're probably not going to like this one. Mark Gatiss to me is just a fine writer. You know, he's in that kind of good zone for me. Normally I can just watch his stuff and just enjoy it. You know, like Robot of Sherwood is one where it's just like I can just put it on and just be content with this. Invaders from Mars, I love this one. It takes place during the War of the Worlds thing, where it's like, you know, what if actual aliens invaded? And I gotta tell a story about this one. The first time I listened to it was during social studies all the way back in grade 10. And that was the period we were covering at that point, was the War of the Worlds, after the war, with radio dramas and America coming back. We were learning about all that. So going through my textbook in class and answering these questions about it while listening to this, I don't know, it just helped it enhance it a bit more. And then they had you had the freaking Mother Russia cliffhanger in, like, I think part 2. Great. Simon Pegg is Don Chaney? That rules. I had no idea that was Simon Pegg until recently. But I love this story, man. It's just so fun. It's just a fun story. It doesn't care. It just doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a fun story. The Chimes of Midnight also goes in God tier. This is Robert Sherman, so obviously God tier. I listen to this story every Christmas. Every Christmas, I listen to Chimes of Midnight. It's my Christmas story. Fantastic. Really gets continues the Web of Time arc, because the Web of Time arc starts here, then it kind of goes away for these next 4, but then it pops up right back here. And it's brought back brilliantly. I love how like the weird mystery the first time listening to it, where you don't know what's going on, and then when you find out what happens and who's behind it all, it's like a mind-bending kind of whoa type moment. It was great. I love Chimes of Midnight. It is brilliant, and if Big Finish was to animate any of their audios, Chimes of Midnight has to be up. Living Legend was a freebie that kind of goes in between Chimes and Seasons of Fear, which is where I listened to it when I listened to it for the first time. And I'm gonna put it in good. I have it in good because it's just a short little 1-part freebie that you can get, but it's just funny. It's just nice fun. I have it on my phone all the time, because just in case I'm somewhere and I don't have anything to listen to, I know I can listen to Living Legend and enjoy it. Seasons of Fear also goes in good. Now, Seasons of Fear, tough task, had to follow Chimes, and it followed it as well as it could. We have the story where the Doctor meets this guy called, oh my god, what's his name? Sebastian Grail. And Grail tells the Doctor, in the future, I have killed you. So the Doctor and Charlie have to now go and find Grail throughout time, because Grail is kind of immortal. And they go through time trying to find him and trying to find which version of Grail here is going to kill the Doctor and stop him. I love this. This was such a good story. It has the thing where every episode is like its own little mini thing, like its own little mini adventure with the overarching plot of having to stop Grail, This also contributes to the Web of Time arc, specifically the ending bit. We have a bit of mention of the Hellfire Club from Minuet in Hell gets a bit of a mention in this one too. It's just a nice one. It's really cool, and the ending really starts setting up what we're going to. Embrace the Darkness is another meh one for me. It would have gotten bad as well, but after re-listen, I can't really say it's bad. It's just kind of eh. The first 2 parts are fantastic. I love the first 2 parts. Really creepy and atmospheric. You don't know what's going on as the Doctor and Charlie end up in this spaceship with no lights. There's no light. It's all pitch black. And then when they find the crew and the crew members' eyes are missing, it's just creepy. I'll never forget the part 1 cliffhanger where Charlie says, "Your eyes, you don't have your eyes." Brilliant. And the little robot that the Doctor's with too is kind of funny. But part 3 and 4 kind of let this story down a bit. I like part 4 a bit more. Part 3 to me is the worst one. But yeah, it's just kind of meh. It's a bit of a coincidence too that both these meh stories are the Nick Briggs stories. And I don't want to hate Nick Briggs in his stories, but so far the ones I've listened to of him are just kind of meh. Time of the Daleks can go in the bad. I have listened to this story 5 times now, and each time I just don't care. It's not interesting to me. It's just not interesting to me. And I try to listen to it, and I try to pay attention. I paid attention a lot more. I say I got a lot more from it, from my most recent re-listen. But that still wasn't enough. Shakespeare has essentially been taken out of time, and the Doctor and Charlie have to find out why, and obviously, because you can tell from the title of the story, it's the goddamn Daleks. This also contributes to the Web of Time arc, but really only the end point. Yeah. Steer clear. Neverland goes in good. Neverland was a weird one. It's only 2 parts. I should say that from Storm Warning, all these adventures, bar Living Legend, which is just a 1-part freebie, all these stories are 4-parters, structured in the style of late classic Who. Neverland is structured as a 2-parter, which I don't know. I think it should have stuck with a 4-parter because there's times where I'm like, oh, is this a cliffhanger? And then we go on. I'm like, oh, I could have used a cliffhanger there. Yeah, so they're both really long 2 parts. This sees the Web of Time arc come to its conclusion here. The Doctor is brought to Gallifrey with Romana, and Coordinator Van Cell, the bastard from Apocalypse Element, is back for this one. And they're pretty much like, well, we gotta get rid of Charlie, we go to the universe of Anti-Time for the first time and meet Centris again, who she showed up at the end of Seasons of Fear, spoiler warning. And yeah, it was just a nice, good conclusion to this arc, and leads right into Zagreus. Zagreus is okay. I think Zagreus is fine. A lot of people really don't like Zagreus. Some people think it's a masterpiece. I am just the one of saying it's an okay story that I can enjoy. It's really weird hearing Doctor Who actors play different roles, but overall, I enjoy Zagreus. I love how each part has its own. The theme tune is different. Yeah. I think Zagreus is fine, even though the title is very clickbaity and misleading. It is a good conclusion to this whole arc that these first 2 seasons have built up, and does lead into our next arc for the next season, which is the Divergent Universe arc with Scherzo, and Scherzo goes in good for me. Not God, but it is very, very good. This is a great way to start off your new Divergent Universe arc, which the Divergent Universe is essentially a universe without rules. There's no rules here. You can do whatever. And Robert Sherman, writer of Chimes of Midnight, does just that with the Doctor and Charlie in this white just void that they're losing their sense of selves. Essentially, like when the Doctor asks Charlie, how long do you think we've been walking here? She goes, about 5 minutes. He goes like, no, it's been around 15. Your sense of time is off now. They start to lose like their sense of sight and all that, and the Doctor explains why he really takes companions, and it's really not a happy reason like New Who would let you believe. But a great story. There has jump scares. I hate jump scares, but this story does. I will give this one a pass. Creed of the Crommen is just kind of meh for me. Again, some people don't like it. I think it's just kind of meh. Introduces Kariz, who he's okay for me. I'm not a huge fan of Kariz, but I'm not a big hater of him. Yeah, but coming off of Scherzo, we're now entering the Creed of the Kralmen, and we're entering this place where there's just alien, like, creatures who offer the Doctor a desk job. Like, it's a complete 180 from Scherzo, which was really serious and mind screwy, to just Creed of the Kralmen, which is kind of standard, you know? Natural History of Fear is one I will say is okay, but it's one I think I need to listen to. I've only listened to Natural History of Fear once, so I need to re-listen. Absolutely. It's one of the stories where I'm like, I need to re-listen to this one. But it is very mind screwy. You have to pay attention 100% of the time, which I wasn't. So when I listen to it again, I'm going to give it my 100% devotion. But I can't comment on it too much, just that I remember really thinking it was just okay. The Twilight Kingdom goes... Here's the thing with this story. If this was not in the Divergent universe, it'd probably go in okay. Absolutely. I could easily just see myself putting this in okay and going, it's a fine Doctor Who story. But because of where it is, it has to go meh. Because when it comes to the arc, it doesn't mean anything and is pretty standard. When again, we are in a universe without rules, no laws. This doesn't mean anything. You can do whatever. And we just have a normal Doctor Who story. With people getting sucked into the walls of a cave. Which again, that's pretty normal for Doctor Who. And if this wasn't in the Divergent Universe arc, put it in okay. But because it's in the Universe arc, I do meh. Face Stealer is another okay one for me. Sees a bunch of people of every religion living in complete harmony, which will never happen in this world. And it's just alright. I don't know I can't say too much about it. Just an okay story for me. The last, I put in good. It's a very bleak, dark story, and I'm a big fan of bleak, dark stories. So, the last. Weird name, because it's not the last one. The way they find out how they have to leave this world that they're in is horrifying, and it's also just super bleak. If you are in like a edgy, depressed mood and you're like, I want to listen to something to reflect my feelings, take the last. Karajoya also goes in good. Sees the Doctor split into 3 parts, not 3 different Doctors, 3 different 8th Doctors, one happy, one bitter, and one just kind of, he's just what's left over. Really good. I really enjoyed it. And then we have the Next Life, which first 2 parts. No, you know what? First 3 parts I enjoy. The rest of it is not all that good. So I give it a meh. If they stuck with what they began, because the story begins with pretty much Kariz and Charlie going, "What if the thing that caused me to meet the Doctor never happened in the first place?" And then they just stopped doing that, and then we're just on an island somewhere with a bunch of strangers. Great. Oh yeah, but this sees the end of the Divergent Universe arc. Overall, had potential. A couple great stories: Scherzo, Last, Kerdroya, Natural History of Fear, Face Stealer, and still had a bit of duds here. But overall, on the whole, I think it was a good experiment. It was cut short. It was meant to go longer, but because Doctor Who was coming back to TV, like with Chris Eccleston, they're like, oh, we need to cut this short because we don't want to just alienate any new potential listeners. Which I completely understand why. Yeah, and Next Life leads into Terra Firma, which is God. I love Terra Firma, man. Oh my god. Terra Firma is a great story. Sees the Davros, sees the 8th Doctor go up against Davros here. And some of the evil things Davros does, and what he's done to the world and to the 8th Doctor. Oh my god. Really good story. I highly recommend. Scaredy Cat is a meh one for me. It is the shortest. I believe it's the shortest Big Finish monthly audio that they have, and it's still 4 parts. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one here. The problem with this one is it just has too many things. Too many stuff is going on in this one. If they just picked one idea and stuck with it, I think it could have worked, but they just had too many ideas going around. Other Lives is what I'm going to put in the good tier again. This one is great. Sees Doctor be mistaken for some woman's husband. Sees Charlie be mistaken for I believe a French princess. And Kariz gets taken into a freak show. Great. I love this one. This one was really fun and intriguing. Especially there's a good reveal there about the person the Doctor's pretending to be her father. It's good reveal on who he is, if that makes sense. If you listen to the story, you know what I mean. And this is the most I think we ever actually get a lot to do with Kariz that matters, bar his first one and bar the next life. This is the most you get with Kariz. Timeworks can go in okay. It's just a fine one, you know. It's pretty much they go to a society that runs like a clockwork, and if you're even like a second too late, you're gone, because we have to run on time type of thing. It's fine. Something Inside, I also do give it okay. This takes one of the ideas from Scaredy Cat, which is the getting rid of like bad behavior type thing, and gives it its own full story. Which again, like I said, if they just picked one and did a full story on, it would work, and it did. Memory Lane, good. This was originally going to be the first big finished 8th Doctor audio I was going to get, but I stopped myself and said, no, you have to start from the beginning. I'm glad I did. I listened to this story the first time, I think after AEW Full Gear 2019. I really like it. I really like this story. With the Ice Cream Man and Charlie and Kariz getting, especially Charlie getting sucked into being a child again. Really good and fun story, man. I love this. The people who say that this should be a 3-parter, not a 4-parter, I don't agree with. I think it works completely fine as a 4-parter. Absolution is just kind of meh for me. This is the last story with Kariz. You know what's going to happen. You're just waiting for the moment, essentially. That's what I was waiting for. I was just waiting for the inevitable. But the ending, like 5 minutes, are fantastic. It is fantastic. With Charlie telling the Doctor that she's gonna leave, and that goes into The Girl Who Never Was, which is okay. Sees Charlie and the Doctor's final adventure. Made me sad. I was sad to see Charlie go. But at least she left with an okay story, and the ending is beautiful. And that is my ranking for the 8th Doctor's monthly range stuff. Probably do another one when I finish his Lucy Miller stuff, which is where I'm currently at for him. I'm at the first season with Lucy. I need to listen to Immortal Beloved next. I'm right at the beginning of his stuff with Lucy. So when I finish the stuff with Lucy, I'll come back and do this again. But overall, I gotta say, man, this is one of my favorite eras of Doctor Who. I constantly revisit these audios over and over again. It's just a nice, fun era. Like, seriously. Like, this is a great... If this was on TV, we'd probably be going berserk about it. Really. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know where you would put some of these stories in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, share the video with your family, friends, all that good stuff. And I will see you all next time.